Welcome to Tech Brothers with Amir. In this video, we are going to learn what are the dataset and what are embedded datasets and shared datasets in reporting services. So dataset is the result set or the output we get from the query. That can be a simple select query or that can be a store procedure. And we use those select queries, store procedure in the reports to run that and get those results or records, and we display them by using reporting services. Now, what are the difference between a shared dataset or embedded dataset or just a dataset? So, embedded dataset or simple dataset is the dataset that report has it, and it is local, or it is the scope of that dataset is limited to that report. With the shared dataset, what does that mean? This dataset is available to all the reports in that project. Now, coming back to the what are the reasons do we need to have a shared data set? Because each report should be kind of unique. We create sales report, we create HR report, finance reports, and each report is using some store procedure. Why exactly we need a shared data set? There are situations, and one of them I'm going to explain in the demo why we need that. Second, we are going to learn how to create the project or solution, and then we will create embedded data set and shared data sets, and finally we will be deploying those reports with the embedded data set as well as shared data set to the report server. Now let me tell you one of the situation where we need the embedded data set. So now let's suppose we need to use this month name parameter in all those reports. We are creating a lot of reports, and maybe 50% of them are using the month name as a parameter. So instead of we create this embedded data set in each of the report, and then why not to create as a shared, so each report can use it. We can simply make a reference and start using it every time. We don't have to use the query and create that data set. So first of all, let's go back and start the SSDT SQL Server Data Tools, and we can see the things in action. Now SSDT is opening SQL Server Data Tools, and that's where we are going to create a new project. So hit File, go to New Project, and the Report Server Project. Here you will be selecting Reporting Services. Now you will provide the project name. That can be, let's say we call Sales Reports. And next we will be providing the solution. Here I'm going to call it SSRS Training Solution. And now this path is the path where this directory will be created. You can go ahead and create anywhere you want. I'm creating on the desktop. You can browse and provide a folder. In our case, we are fine in this folder. Hit OK. Now once the solution is open by using the SSDT, you will see shared data sources, shared data sets, and the reports tab here. Now first of all, we need to make a connection to the database from which we will be extracting the data. So we need to run the queries, right? So we need a connection string that can also be embedded in the report or can be created as a shared. I prefer creating it as a shared because other reports can use that data source. So let's create a new data source. Now here we are going to call this one a shared data source, and we call it sales because we want to read the data from the sales database. So provide a reasonable name. Most of the time I go with the database name, and they are pretty much unique mostly, and if not, I provide some other prefix or that make it unique. So you can choose whatever you like. So sales database, and it is going to be SQL Server, and I'm providing the server name here, and then we will be providing the database. Now test the connection, looks good, hit OK, and fine. Now shared data source is created. We can make use of this shared data source in any of the report. Next, let's create a report first, and then we come back and create a shared data set. So now let me create go to the add new item. If I will hit here add new report, it will take me to the wizard. So I'm going to go to add and a new item, and I want to create the report from basics by myself. So report, and I'm going to call this one customer report. Hit OK or add. Now the report is ready, but this doesn't have any data on this one. If you see here, we see the data source one again. This is where you can reference or create your embedded data set. You right click here, add new data source. Now you can embed data source as well, and that will be available to only this report. And I always recommend using shared if you are having reports and more than one, they are going to use the same connection. So here we have a use shared data source reference. Select the shared data source, so that's SDS underscore sales. Hit OK. You could have just named this one as well. If you haven't, that doesn't really matter. This is reference to this data source, but I recommend using it because when you are going to deploy this report, you will see data source one is pointing to this SDS sales.rds. So if you will just see that one, that's not really helpful. I will go ahead and I will say sales. At least I would know that okay, there is a connection between both of them. So I just name it correctly. So this is a reference or pointer to the shared data source. Now next part is creating a data set. So right click on the data set and say add data set. Now you have two options. One is okay, use the shared data set, and then second is use the data set embedded in my report. So embedded one is going to be local to your report. Let's create the local one first, and we call this one DS customer because we are extracting data from customer table. So we selected the data source, that's a sales. Actually that's a pointer to the shared data source, that's its SDS underscore sales. Now we will provide a query, select asterisk from DBO customer. When I will be creating this report, I will never provide a asterisk, it is just for demo, but I always provide the names. Now we are good. This is creating some columns here, and let's click here and say insert, and now you go ahead and insert a table. So we can grab these columns and put it there, and our report is ready. Now in this demo, still we did not create a embedded data shared data set. We have created the embedded data set, so this is local to the report. Now I want to go ahead and create a shared data set so I can use in this report and other reports as well. So I'm going to go ahead here in the shared data sets, create a new data set. I'm going to call this one month name, and this is the data source it is going to use. It is going to use the sales database, so that's where our shared data source is pointing. And I have a query where I'm selecting the distinct month names from this table, because this month name can be used across many reports and maybe for parameters and all those kind of things. Now hit OK, and our shared data set is created. Now if we go here and we want to use this data set, the shared one, we can right click in the report data sets, add data set. Now if you see use a shared data set, it is showing us the shared data set right away, so we can start using it. We don't have to write query, we don't have to do anything because we have already done that. Hit OK, and now we can use that. And here maybe I insert another table, and I can just go ahead and put the month name. If I will preview the report, now report is extracting the data from embedded data set as well as from a shared data set. See, the second table is coming from the shared and the first one is coming from embedded data set. Now let me create another report. Right click here, add new item and say report, and here I'm going to create a employee report. So EMP, sorry. And in this report, what I want to use, so once I open that one, I don't have any reference for the data source, so I have to create a reference. Let's create the reference and call this one sales as well. And now we use this shared data source. Hit OK. Now our reference is ready for the shared data source. Now we can go ahead and create the data sets. Here first of all we can go ahead and say month name. That's and we want to use as shared data set. So I'm going to click on month name. So if you see here, that's the only field it is bringing. And next we can go ahead and create a new data set, and this time I'm going to embed that. So I'm going to call this one DS employee, and the data source it should be used in is the sales, because that's where our employee table is. So if you see here in the sales database, I have customer table and employee, so I'm pointing to the same database. Now let me go back, and we are going to use the query from DBO employee. We are all good. Hit OK. So now we can go ahead and insert the data here. So your choice, if you want to put the month names first, you can go ahead and put it. In this case, I'm only having one column, no big deal, just this is for the test. And next, if I want to insert another table, I can go ahead and insert the new table, and I can use ID, first name and last name coming from employee dataset. Now we are all good. Let's save this one. So you learned how to create the local data set or embedded local data set, and that will not be available to the other reports. So if I go to customer, DS employee will not be available. So let's say I'm in the customer, and if I go ahead and create a new data set, add data set, I don't see the DS employee here because that's not shared. So let's give a try and go to the employee report and see if we can make this one shared as well. So let's say DS employee, right click and convert to the shared data set. That's pretty cool. So we can just click here, and now it is in the shared data set. Now if I go to the customer table report, and I click on the data sets, add data set, I have both of them. So I can use month name, or if I need to use a DS employee, I can use it. So shared data set is the query that you want to use, the result set you will be using or you need to use in multiple reports. For those, it's a good idea, go ahead and create shared data sets. If you feel like okay, your report is going to use this result set and no other report will be using this result set, I recommend going ahead and creating the embedded data set, because if you have a lot of shared data sets and only one report is used, it is hard to maintain as well. They will be in the deployment, you will see them, they will be going to the different folder, and sometime you have to provide the permissions and all those kind of things. So if you don't need that, don't make them shared data sets. But if you are feeling okay, this report this query results will be used for multiple reports, make them shared. Hit OK. We are all good. Now on the report side, I'm going to show you a few things. I don't have anything, but I have just the home page for my reporting services set up, and here is the reports part. So that's where we will see the reports, and here is our report server link. So that's where directories will show up and all those kind of things. I'm going to copy this one, and let's deploy the reports. Now if you are a developer, you will not have permission to deploy the reports to production or UAT or QA directly. You will be deploying your reports maybe to your local machine, reporting services, or maybe dev. So in other cases where you are deploying your reports to the QA prod and the UAT, you will be just creating your report, testing them out, and given or checking in the TFS and creating a ticket. So your DBA will take care of that, and he will deploy everything. And when you write the document, always is good idea mention okay, report name, data source, shared data sources name, and data sets name. So your DBA would know that what to check or what to take a look into report when he deploys it. Now let's go ahead and deploy these reports. Right click on the project and then go to properties, and here there are a couple of things we need to provide. We need to provide a target data set folder, so that's where our shared data sets are going to go, and here target data source, so data sources, and you can change this name, so it doesn't have to be data sets and all that. If you want to remove this space, let's remove that. And now other parts will be sales reports, so that's where our reports will be going. If we want to change this one, we can change it. So that's the folder where reports are going now. The last part we have to provide is the target server URL. So paste it, Control V, because we have copied it. Now I'm using SSRS 2014. So this is the target server version, SQL Server 2008 R2 and later. So that's fine with me. Hit apply. Okay. Now let's go ahead and deploy. So right click on your project and say deploy. Now the report should be deployed, and the first part you want to take a look here. So it is deploying the data sources, and they are going to the SDS sales is the data source name, and they are going to the data sources folder. Now it is deploying data sets. So there are two data sets. Remember, one is month name and other is DS employees. These are the two shared data sets we have created. They will be going to the data sets folder. If you notice that here, the embedded data set did not go to this folder because they are local to the report, and you don't need to deploy them in the separate folder. They will be just in the report, but any shared will go to the data set folder. Next, we are deploying the reports here. So you can see the sales reports, that's a folder, and the customers report, and all those reports are deployed in this. We have two reports, customer and employee. Now let's go to the report server and take a look. Let's refresh. As you can see that in the data sets, you will see the data sets, the shared ones, and if you click here, you can take a look. Okay, what is the name of that one? What data source it is using? So it is using sales. In case you are after deployment, you want to connect to another server, and you don't have to make any changes here. You will be just making changes to your shared data source, and then data sets will start using that one. Now let me take you to the data sources. Here is our shared data set source. So now you can go ahead and change the server name if you are deploying to QA or UAT or prod, and then also if the database name is changed, you can go ahead and change it and test connection and apply. The last thing I want to show you here, the reports. I can go ahead and run the reports. So you can see that the reports are coming right. This is customer report, and that's where you can see that. Okay, I'm going to go back and run the employee report. Right now these reports are running from the sales database. Now if I will make a decision to run everything from the sale region database, I mean, it should have tables and store procedure and everything what we have used in the report, and in our case it does have it. So if I want to use maybe not, I don't see, let's say if I will take a look, I don't use a sale table from where I'm getting this month names. So maybe I can go ahead and create it. So let me create the table here in this database before we go ahead and start using it. Let me copy this one. I'm going to go to sale region and just create the table. Okay, from where it is coming from, sales, sorry, sales parentheses, and I can say select distinct into DBO sale from. Let's see if that works. It worked. So it got us 12 records. Now we have the records in this table, and our database is sales. So we have what we need. We have customer table, we have employee table, and sale table, and these are the three tables used in our reports. Now think about, I'm in different server and I have different database name. So we created the reports by using sales database, but now we are in different server and our database name changed. It is sales region. So now we need to make a change. So we can go ahead into report server, and we need to only do one thing. We need to go to the data sources, and in the data sources we click here and then say sale region. In my case, the server name, I don't have two SQL Server instances. That's why I'm just keeping the same SQL Server instance, and only thing I can do is the database name, I changed it. I have other SQL Server instances at Raza's place, and I have to VPN, that makes it slow, but I will create when I'm going to create deployments to DevQ and prod machines and show you all those steps step by step, and we will change the server names. But no big deal, you can just change the server name whatever it is, and just the database name if it is different in different environment. Test the connection. Now our shared data source is connected to the sale region database on this server, and rest of everything we don't have to do anything. So all the shared data sets and reports and everything will be automatically start using this shared data source. So if I run this one, this time it should return me 2 records here, as it did, as a sale region has 2 records for this table, and the rest of that things are coming same. So I encourage you guys to use shared data sources, and when it comes to the data sets, you want to make sure if it is repeating over and over and you have to create every time in the report, then go ahead and create shared data set. But if it is used only one time in the report, I recommend using the embedded data set in the report. Thanks very much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next video.